Hello aspirants and welcome again to Legacy IAS Academy. In this lecture, we will be discussing how the India and Bangladesh trade ties that are there, they are fraying away, they are getting diluted, they are breaking, and the advantage of this is probably being gained by, of course, none other than China. So why is this happening in the first place and how China is gaining the ground? All this and much more is what we are going to see in this lecture. So what's the news? The news is about the union government. The government of India has taken certain actions. So what is that action? It has decided to impose number of import restrictions on the imports that are coming from the imports that we are taking from Bangladesh, and particularly that of the ready-made garments, right? Ready-made garment. Now remember, Bangladesh is a huge exporter of ready-made garments. In fact, India is also a big player in ready-made garments, right? But we have a lot of Bangladesh imports coming into India, and now the Indian government has put import restrictions on ready-made garments from Bangladesh. Now, not just that, this needs to be looked up in addition to one more step that the government had taken recently. So what step that was? Recently, India had ended the transshipment rights for Bangladesh. Now, what is this transshipment rights? So basically, when Bangladesh exports its goods to other countries via the shipping route, it takes a halt at India's ports as well. So India's ports acted sort of a pit stop for Bangladesh. Hence, India acted as a transshipment region for Bangladesh, and India, what it did is it ended the transshipment rights for Bangladesh in the month of April. So just a month ago, India did this, and now it is basically imposing restrictions. So why are we doing that? Of course, we will not do that without any reason. There is a very strong reason to do that. See, India generally does not act like this and take the first step or initiate these kind of actions. Absolutely not. So of course, this time around as well, it is not an action, rather a reaction. A reaction to what? A reaction to the actions that were already taken by Bangladesh. So what were these actions that Bangladesh took? First thing is the Bangladesh pivot that we will talk about. What is this pivot? When you talk about pivoting, that means Bangladesh changing its stance, taking a different stance right now. So what is it? In Bangladesh is probably trying to move away from India and is going closer and closer to China. So why is this happening? There are various reasons for this, of course, and there are various things that suggest that that is happening. So let us discuss the Bangladesh pivot. Now, Bangladesh as a country is all set to graduate from its least developed country status. Presently, as we speak, Bangladesh is a least developed country, but Bangladesh in November 2026, that means in another year and a half, is about to be getting rid of the least developed country tag. When it gets rid of this tag, that means it will graduate out of it and be then not at all be called as LDC. So what will happen? Because of that, the more benefits that it was getting will be reduced. One thing in that is it will end its duty-free access to exports market. Since Bangladesh is presently a least developed country, it gets duty-free access to the export markets. That means its goods in the market are not imposed with any of the custom duty or any of the duties that are there, but that will be taken away the moment Bangladesh graduates out of its LDC mark. Now, because of this, what Bangladesh is doing is Bangladesh is trying to prepare for such a scenario. And how is it preparing for such a scenario? It is preparing by moving away from India and towards China. So it is having an economic pivot in which it is moving away from India and towards China. And that is seen with respect to the decisions, actions that it is taking, and the comments that are being passed from the Bangladeshi side. So let us understand what these are. So if you talk about Muhammad Yunus, who's Bangladesh government's chief advisor, he had clearly mentioned that it is China, that is Bangladesh that is China's natural partner and not India. He also commented about the northeastern states of India, saying that they are landlocked, so cannot provide trade access to China. Hence, Bangladesh should be China's natural friend or natural trade partner is what he had suggested. He mentioned that India's strategically important northeastern region, they are landlocked, so they can't do much to help China, but Bangladesh can be the natural friend over here is what he has said. So he has sort of had an animosity filled stance against India. And why is that the case? Simply because they want to show that they are against India and want to jump into the lap of China. That is exactly what is happening over here. Now, once that is done, of course, India is also going to take action. And this action of India is a reaction. We have to be very clear about that. Now, India has decided to do this. There are reasons for India to do this. Our reason is not just that you are going to China's lab, you are being closer to China, so we'll do that. No, there are economic and logical reasons for it. So let us see those reasons. India has decided because this garment industry which is there, it is labor intensive. It is labor intensive, hence it is going to create a huge amount of jobs. So the imports coming from Bangladesh will lower the demand for our own garment industry. Now that is going to take away a lot of jobs, or at least that is going to ensure that more jobs are not created in this sector, because demand will not be high as Bangladesh cheap imports are coming in India. As a result of which there is a huge economic reason to do so. At the same time, basically India also has to deal with Bangladesh imports which are cheaper. Now, why they are cheaper? They are not necessarily cheaper because of their higher efficiency. They are cheaper because of the duty-free fabric that Bangladesh actually gets from China. We'll see the percentage variation also that is there. So, as a result of which, India wants to strategically move on the has to take this strategic move on the garment imports that are coming from Bangladesh. Now, at the same time, this is one reason. Second, Indian textile firms have since forever, or for a long time in fact, has opposed the Bangladesh imports, the imports coming from Bangladesh. Why? Because Bangladesh basically enjoyed the benefit of duty-free Chinese fabric. That means China gives duty-free fabric, no imports, import duty is put on these fabric. So Bangladesh basically gets complete duty-free fabrics for China, which ensures that their products are cheap. Now this gives them around 10 to 15% of price advantage over the Indian market, over what is gained by the Indian market. Right. So what restrictions have been imposed? Restrictions imposed by Bangladesh. So what restrictions did Bangladesh impose on us before we took this action? Let us see that. So as far as Bangladesh is concerned, Bangladesh basically imposed port restrictions on Indian exports. So what kind of port restrictions? It has said that whatever Indian exports are coming in yarn, whatever Indian yarn exports are coming, they cannot come through the ports. So Indian yarn via land ports, allowing Indian yarn exports only through the seaports. So through the land, it did not allow, it's not allowing it. It is saying that all the exports coming from India of Indian yarn can only come through the seaports and not the land ports. Now, what is the issue here? The issue is majority of it was going through the land ports. That point number one. Point number two, they were more cheaper and faster and quicker transport than the seaport. So this is going to hit India heavily, because now suddenly the exports will go down because only one mode of export is allowed over here and not the other. Right. Now, interestingly, this is going to hit even harder because Indian yarn consists of a huge amount of total Indian export that goes to Bangladesh. So from the total export that India does to Bangladesh, 20% of it comprises of the Indian yarn, as a result of which it is directly going to hit our 20% imports. So this is what Bangladesh has done, subsequent to which we have taken the action. Now, how and why is China rising over here? China has basically simply allowed 97% of Bangladeshi goods duty-free access. So whatever goods Bangladesh is exporting, China is imposing as good as no duty over here. China provides duty-free access to almost all the Bangladeshi products, up to 97% of the Bangladeshi products that are being exported to China since 2020, since about half a decade, are completely duty-free. Now this is helping Bangladesh also diversify their exports. Now, another thing is, now why would China do that? China also has something to gain from here. When it comes to Bangladesh importing arms, Bangladesh imports its arms majorly from China. So Bangladesh is basically China's second largest buyer of military hardware globally, accounting for 1/5 of China's total exports between 16 and 2020. Now, Chinese arms make up over 70% of Bangladesh major arms purchases. So, if Bangladesh is purchasing around 100 arms, 70 alone are coming from China itself. 70% of arms is being provided by China. So, China has a huge arms market in Bangladesh. That is what is doing. China, one of our enemy, is giving arms to Bangladesh. It is giving arms to Pakistan. Now with them also, with Bangladesh also, we don't have such a good relation, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. Thank you.